Welcome to the Town Hall Theater stage. I am Zach Shivers, the box office manager. I'm here today with Anne Undeland, who is an award-winning playwright whose play, Wharton Between the Sheets, opens right here at Town Hall Theater Friday, May 9th. Thank you so much for joining me, Anne.
Oh, thank you. I'm so pleased to be here. Hi, everybody.
The Wharton and Wharton
Yes.
Between the Sheets is Edith Wharton.
Yes, it is.
And the play is set in 1908. And
Yes.
I just wanted us to start by talking about what's going on in Edith's life in 1908 that inspired an entire play.
She has a sexual awakening at the age of 46, which I think is really interesting. But it's also a really particular moment in her life because she's just published The House of Mirth, which has sold 150,000 copies in the first year alone, which is just unheard of runaway success. Even now, it would be runaway success. She's sort of at the top of her game as a writer. She's building the Mount, which is her amazing mansion in Lenox, Massachusetts. Everything seems to be great for her. And from the outside, she just looks totally successful and like she's got it all sewn up and everything's great. But in fact, her marriage is falling apart. She's desperately lonely and really innocent about love and romance and affairs of the heart. And into this setting walks Morton Fullerton, this sort of universally magnetic, seductive person, and he really sweeps her off her feet. And of course, the period is really interesting. It's right before the First World War, when everything in the world changes. It's sort of the kind of last or late gasp of the Gilded Age.
So let's get into the play itself.
Yes.
So we have this historical context, what's going on in Edith Wharton's life, what the world is going through in 1908. We know that you want to talk about sex and love. So how does that unfold in this play?
Well, I will say, just to sort of reassure everybody, there's nothing explicit in the play. Many things are suggested. And I think in many ways a suggestion is much more interesting than an actual, very explicit thing. But the play is not only about that. I would say that the play is really a love story. And what I set out to do was explore all kinds of different kinds of love. So there's sexual romantic love, which is sort of the instigating thing. It's the thing that gets the ball rolling. But there's also, I explore the relationship that Edith Wharton has with her dear friend Henry James. And so that's kind of looking at the love of really old friends. And then she and her lady's maid also have a very intimate relationship, non-sexual, that kind of grows through the play. And I was really interested in exploring the sort of the employer-employee relationship. Edith Wharton loves her dogs. She loves her dogs. They have a very prominent role in the play. I think in many ways that the most important love in this story is Posy's love for Edith's writing and the love of great writing, the love of great words. That love is very big and important. And then I wrote the play during the pandemic, and all I wanted to do was get out of my apartment. And so I set the whole thing in Paris. And Edith Wharton loved France. She loved Paris. And so there's her love affair with Paris as well. And I think that love is sort of the motivating force, is something that I'm really interested in. And honestly, I think it's a story that's really important to tell because God knows, Zach, in these times, I think we need love stories more than ever.
Edith Wharton is such a formidable public figure.
Absolutely.
And this play seems to uncover so much vulnerability and sensitivity and inexpertise. But the play is also very funny.
Oh, thank you. I think so.
And there's a lot of banter. There's a lot
Yes.
of shrewd and sharp comments that are biting. And I was curious, as you were writing that, how you balanced those two parts of her persona.
Let me tell you a little bit about the genesis of the play. When I think of Edith Wharton, I think of her as almost this kind of gray edifice, this kind of stony-faced, intimidating person. And she was those things. And then, Zach, during the pandemic, I read the love letters that she wrote her lover, Morton Fullerton. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, this could be me. They're so full of that bewilderment and vulnerability and craziness, love madness, exhilaration, agony, all those things that accompany falling in love. And it's a pretty, I hope it's a universal experience. I mean, it is my fervent hope that everybody, at least once in their life, gets to have this experience of love madness, is what I really call it. And I'm so sorry that they have to go through it too, because, you know, it's a wonderful experience and it's an agonizing experience, and it's so clear in her letters. And when I read these letters that are so full of vulnerability and ecstasy and torture, I just thought, oh, I have to write a play about this, because I recognize that feeling. She, you know, it's a beautiful and universal and vulnerable making thing. And one thing that I do hope this play does is, when people come to see it, they leave thinking about love, but they also leave remembering or feeling anew or something that feeling of that first flush of love.
I know that you have taken, obviously, some creative license, but this isn't a made-up story.
You know, it's interesting doing historical fiction because I'm not writing a lecture. You know, if you want to go to a lecture, great, go to a lecture. And what I'm seeking is emotional truth rather than necessarily historic truth. So if the two of them happen to coincide, and they often do, that's great. And this is one of the coolest things that happened when I was writing the play, is I found that if I was on a good track, sort of writer-wise, in terms of the play, in terms of the heart of the play, the history would start to give me gifts. And I would come across something that would be so perfect to put into the play that it was almost uncanny. So if I was on a good track artistically, something I would come across something. And
Do you have an example of that?
yes, did you read Ethan Frome in middle school?
So I grew up on the West Coast, and so it is not required
You probably
reading
never
on the
even
West
heard
Coast,
of
but
Edith
almost
Wharton.
everybody watching this probably did read Ethan Frome.
Exactly. The thing I did not know is that Ethan Frome was originally written in French. She wrote it in French as an exercise to improve her French. And then around the time of the affair, she translates it into English. And so, in fact, the prose is simpler than her prose usually is. And I always thought that it was because it was about, you know, simple New England folk. But no, it was because she wrote it in French and then translated it back. So that the fact that Ethan Frome is originally written in French turns out to be a major plot point in my play.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it actually turns out to be really cool.
I know we have an incredible cast.
Oh my God.
We have several actors that are coming up from New York just to be in this play. We have several incredible local actors who have been in many Mako productions. Have you had a chance to see rehearsals of this particular production?
I was at the first read-through, and I can tell you, Zach, you can tell really quickly. And I think this is really, really, really a special group. I will say I've been in correspondence with Melissa Lowry,
Who's directing?
who's directing the play, for over a year. And it's been the most wonderful colloquy. She asks the most thoughtful, wonderful, probing questions, sensitive questions, and I just have such a good feeling, a wonderful feeling about her directing this piece. I feel the whole thing is in terrific hands.
To end, just, how do you hope that audiences are transformed by this play? How are they going to be different when they leave from how they came into the theater?
I think when something is successful artistically, and my art form is theater, is it expands you. It expands your heart. It expands your soul. And you leave sort of seeing the world anew, right? That you're sort of kind of reborn in a way. And it is my hope that when people come to this play, that they will fall in love with the characters, will fall in love with love, and think about the many different varieties of love, and that they will go out into the world and bring that with them. I mean, honestly, I think we need that now more than ever.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank
Anne.
you. It was lovely to talk to you. Bye.